Today is July 20th. We're just gonna go do a quick market review of what we did today. So today I took one trade. I was short bias. Yeah, that's it. Ended up being a nice winner, but we'll go over the analysis, right? So I open up. First thing I do when I start trading, I look at the high time frames. So I looked at the weekly. I don't really have anything here that I would have used for a trade. Just nothing's really speaking to me here. We haven't swept any liquidity or come into any imbalance. And then I drop down to time frame here. ES did not have any imbalances close in proximity aside from this one that we came back into on Sunday here, or sorry, on Friday. And then I looked at NQ also. So NQ had this gap there. So I was looking for us to trade up into this gap and then maybe continue lower. That's what I was looking for. And then I dropped down another time frame, right? So I saw we had these 12-hour gaps here in proximity, right? So what I was waiting for is for us to come into these 12-hour gaps and then begin to go lower. Just because of the nature of these high time frame gaps, they're very, very like responsive or reactive, I guess. Whenever we come into them, we can pretty much guess like 75 to 80% of the time that it's going to react in the direction that it was formed. So me knowing that, I drop down to the 4-hour time frame. Pretty much we have that 12-hour gap paired up with this 4-hour gap here, and then we also swept this liquidity here coming into the open, right? So whenever we manipulate into the open or we have that opening session volatility, I always wait for 15 minutes before I look for a setup, right? And because we came into these high time frame gaps and swept liquidity, I look for like the lowest bear bar for entry for a trade, which would be like change in state of delivery, right? So yeah, we swept this, did all that. Basically, I was looking for whichever asset was going to show the setup first. So that ended up being ES. So if you take a look at NQ here, its setup came. When did Mr. Setup come? Its setup finalized here at 9:49. And then if we take a look at ES here, this is what I was looking at here. So we had our 1, 2 up candles. We swept this lower time frame liquidity here, and then our order block would have formed right below there, and then it formed at 9:45 pretty much. And again, like I wait for that first 15 minutes, and then I enter. Then I look to find a trade. I don't enter a trade. I look to find a trade, right? So our order block formed right here, marketed in here, or I limited in like literally the second it closed down there. And my target for this trade was, and I always do 2 above here. I was targeting the next 12-hour liquidity, which would have been this low right here, right? Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, which would have been the low, the 4-hour low down there, which is also paired with a 12-hour low all the way down here. This is what I was looking for. But TP1 was at 5R, which is typically just 50% of um, my initial risk, right? So I'll take off 50% here, and then TP2 would be at 7.5R, but that's all the way down here, and then final TP would have been that, right? But we didn't. But we didn't really get there. So what ended up happening is I took off 50% there, and then my trailed stop was all the way up here, which closed at 3.75R. So trade ended up being about 4.2, 4.5R, right? So overall, this was a good trade. Um, we like days like this where you just enter a trade and it starts going in direction. It's great. These things don't happen all the time, but when it happens, it's pretty nice, you know. But For the rest of the day, we can kind of see how we reacted off this 4 hour gap that we formed in the morning. And then we ended up closing below it here at 2, retested it like an IFHG pretty much, and we kept on going down, taking sell side liquidity. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for my review. Short buys today, enter the trade, CISD, quick and easy. Nice. Till then, see you guys later.